just think now at this point in the season, we have all the clutter out. Like nothing else matters besides winning.
Your ways to start a comeback, then a back-to-back. But just sort of take us through, how was it going through a back-to-back like this for you, and maybe just sort of pushing through a night when the shot's not going in as much tonight as last night?
I was, encouraging that I could, my body feels good after the game. Missed obviously a lot of time, and a lot of the time I was just sitting and relaxing and letting my rib heal. So it just feels good to be out here again. I woke up this morning like it was the first day of school again, to be able to play another game. So I'm just excited to be back.
When it comes to this offense, sort of everybody producing at this level, what is the ease when you have so many different guys who can make plays out there in a given lineup?
Yeah, no, that's part of our depth. We got guys top to bottom that can put it on the floor, make plays for themselves, for others. And that's what this roster is made of. That's why our offense is what our offense is. We have a bunch of guys who can, like I said, create for themselves and for others.
Tyler, you've been in the play in the last three. Obviously, that's what people talk about. You're just on the verge of maybe moving out of that range now. How much do you guys look at that? How important is that to you guys?
Yeah, our coach talks about it every day.
Okay.
So we as players, mainly me, Bam, really me and Bam, who've been here. We want to get out of the play-in. That's our goal, and or that's our first goal. We've got a lot of goals, but that's our first goal.
Tyler, I know you were maybe a little annoyed you didn't get that foul call later in the first half when you did the sweep-through move, but just generally with that move, what are you kind of looking at when you feel you're going to flow into that? What are you kind of looking at the defender?
I don't know if I should say, and then they know what I'm looking at, but just like their hands, where their hands are at, how their body's positioned. A lot of times guys guard with their hands, so every time I go by somebody, they put their hands on me, so I know their hands will be there. It's just about getting them off balance and then picking up the ball and going through their hands.
Thank you. Yeah. Almost never going to miss a shot from the foul line, from the field, from the three-point line. What are those nights like?
Oh, man, you never know. Basketball's a beautiful thing. Every game is its own story. But I felt good there tonight. I'm sure the team did too. We played together, had a good rhythm. Everyone was involved. Definitely a team win.
You guys have obviously dealt with some lulls in games, those third quarters, or fourth quarters. How much has kind of you guys being close to full health and having this depth helped you sustain more over games?
Oh man, it's been great. It's been great. When we're full squad, everyone healthy. Very hard to deal with. Because from the first man to the last man, everyone can go in there and do something special to change the outcome of the game. So.
It seemed like when you admitted that try for the three-point play, everyone in the building but you knew you had hit the scoring milestone. Were you aware coming in tonight that you were 21 away?
I knew nothing. I thought it was a timeout, just a regular timeout. So I was just, lolly-dolly-dolly, just running to the bench.
So you thought you guys were just enjoying you that much that they were all giving you high fives?
I didn't know until like 15K. I was like, I didn't know how much I had. Okay.
I want to just now that you have guys like Norm and Tyler, that you don't have to necessarily be the A scorer, that you can just sort of play at your own rhythm. Do you find yourself maybe a little bit more comfortable with other, alpha options out there?
I just go out there and hoop, regardless of the situation, conditions, anything. I just try to go out there and play my game. And, with Norm, Tyler, everyone at full health, it's just, it's a scary sight. We go and we know we can play for anybody offensively, but the defense part is what's going to separate us. But having everyone full health, Tyler, Norm, it's big time. Those guys can do a lot of special things. They're all-stars. So.
Kind of connecting together, 3 straight wins here. What have you been seeing from it?
I just think now at this point in the season, we have all the clutter out. Like nothing else matters besides winning. I think that's the most important thing, and I think we're really starting to buy into the collective effort. And trusting one another and working the game. I think that's the biggest part. And I think obviously us being finally healthy. We didn't have D. Mitch tonight, but I think it's the healthiest we've been all year. And we just want to continue to build that chemistry and do all the little things to help us pull these games out and not have any slippage and continuing to focus on our goal of getting out the play-in.
Not many guys roll to a 25-point night after missing 3 free throws to start the game like that, and you look disgusted. What was it like going from that to finding the range to a can't-miss range after?
The biggest thing for me I've worked on a lot throughout the course of my career, I've talked about it before, just my mental approach, being mentally tough through the games. I expect to make all my free throws, but sometimes it doesn't happen. But just knowing that's one moment and one part of the game, and you got to move on and get to the next one. It doesn't affect the next plays. So just staying even keel, assessing the situation, seeing how I can improve and get better, and then moving forward with that. But I've done a great job and just really focusing on being in the present moment and controlling what I can control, whether it's a make, miss, and understanding that comes with the game.
Norm, I know what happened in part tonight because Memphis was missing a lot of their size, but how much easier does it make life when Bam is consistently drawing 2 in the ball and the defense is collapsing on him constantly every possession?
It's big time. Obviously, with his attention, he didn't get as much field goal attempts, because every time he was posting up, there was a guy behind him. They're trying to front him, then there are guys behind him, and then even when we were able to get it to him in the post, they're sending 2-3 guys at him. But I thought he did a great job of creating the offense and allowing us to play out of that. The attention that he was drawing, especially because they were smaller, playing small ball, and that allowed us to be able to play out of closeouts a lot of the time. So this attention that he was able to draw was big for us, and. We just got to continue to play off of one another. Every single night is going to be different with the matchups and the teams we're playing, but I thought he did a great job of creating the offense from drawing the attentions in his post-ups.
Norm, you mentioned earlier avoiding the play-in. Today you guys moved into 7th place. How much are you guys paying attention to this race to get out of the play-in? And obviously you have bigger goals, but how much is that kind of the discussion between you guys as you make this push?
Yeah, that's what we're focused on. We want to get out the play-in. So we're locked into it. We know what we need to do. Obviously, we're not hoping and wishing nobody's going to come help us. It's all on us. So controlling what we can control as a team. And going out there and playing our style of basketball and putting our best foot and best effort forward to give us a chance to get out of that. We can't control what other teams are doing. Obviously, we want to have them have a little downfall while we're kicking it into gear and getting these wins. But we're focused on how we need to play and how we need to compete every single night. Doesn't matter what the team is in their standings and where they're at, but playing a brand of basketball that we're happy about and going out there and getting these wins.
No, it seems like Wiggs is one of those players that benefits when you guys are fully healthy, maybe a little bit more. What do you think changes from offensively that maybe he slots into the right slot offensively in the games when you guys kind of have all your pieces?
Yeah, I just think, we have so many pieces offensively, and we can play so many different ways that, when guys are trying to take somebody out the game, it opens up space for somebody else to attack. Like tonight, Bam drawing that attention, having 3 guys now, he's the recipient of that. Now we skipping the ball across court. Now they're closing out. He can shoot the ball. He can drive. He can put him in the post. I think we should have a lot of versatility with whatever lineup we have on the floor. And obviously, like, Wiggs is a tremendous talent, number 1 pick. So he does his thing. We trust him. And I just think it's great. That down the line when you're trying to game plan to take somebody out the game, somebody else can get hot, and that's the bonus of this team.
Coach, obviously the offense didn't really lose a beat. I would imagine you don't want the team to give up 120 a night, but what did you like from today?
Yeah, I think we probably would have given up about 110, except for the last minute and a half. And we're probably on track to have another one of those 140-point games. So I like a lot what's happening offensively the last 2 games. Playing a real collective game, sharing the ball, being aggressive, back-to-back 70-point in the paint games, but also, taking the appropriate shots. Guys are really just playing the right way. And you can see it. You can see, a lot of guys are able to contribute, when we play that way, and we also put up bigger scoring numbers.
We've talked a lot about the depth the last few days, but how much has that depth helped you guys avoid maybe these lulls in games that?
Yeah, yes. You have to deal with whatever happens, during the season. We could have managed those third quarters better. I don't want to just lay it all on the rotation, but certainly when you have your talent out there, that helps. We just look like we have a lot more sustainable and consistent, talent out there, and the guys are complementing each other, in the different lineups. So that definitely helps. And when we've had these big scoring outbursts, during the course of the year, like first halves or whatever, that's a part of it. Guys being out, and the other part of it is us finding a way to be better. In those moments.
I know Memphis was very undersized, but with how much they had to collapse or dedicate attention to Bam on the inside, was this kind of good practice for everybody on the team? Skip passes, hitting the weak side.
Yeah,
Getting the
what I thought was it was just a really mature game. It was one of the most mature post-up games Bam has played. He just allowed the defense to overreact, and then he made the easy play over and over and over. That's what the great players do. You don't feel like you have to make a spectacular play. You also don't get frustrated if you're not scoring. He was just, making the appropriate play, and everybody else got to benefit. He created the blender for us, and just made a lot of easy plays, and he didn't even get the assist out of it. It ended up being like a swing, and somebody else, would get an open shot. Wiggs was a beneficiary of quite a few of them, but that's part of, Bam's maturity, as an offensive player, and just reading the game and not feeling like you have to force things, if you're not scoring.
I know Myron's heart is in the right place, but does that have to be tamed a little bit to avoid a moment like that?
Yeah, let's exhale, and we'll take a look at it. Because his greatest strength is this unbridled intensity and effort and energy, and his heart is in a great place, and he's wired like us competitively. So you add that type of intensity to this competitive will that will boil over, at times. I don't want to take away from that competitiveness. I just want to see where it is, right now. We've been spending a lot of time with him, just, the discipline of defending without fouling. He fouled a lot last night, toward the end of the game, but that matters. It's like those are habits that you have to develop no matter what the score is or when you're in the game. We love Myron. I don't know what happened on the three-point shot. I just saw Pippen, fall. I haven't seen a replay on that one. I just saw the play after that, and that looked like it was 95% Pippen. But let's just see what it is. I love Myron regardless.
Coach, obviously, Davion out, then Kaz gets to start there, and I know you've spoken about his work ethic before, but he looks very comfortable out there. Does that continue to surprise you because he's still only 19?
I just want to be open, to it. He's doing what we talk about all the time. Make us watch you, make us pay attention a little bit more, impact the game, make us think about playing you more, and he's earning everything right now. And it does things with great intention. His workouts, his film study, even the way he competes out there, it's with intention. It's with a mindset to try to, help the team win. And he's growing and improving, as the weeks go by. So he gives us a different element, a different, offensive talent, just in his ability to kind of create plays out of nothing, his vision and the way he can shoot the ball.
Just looking at Wiggs tonight, does it almost feel like he's the beneficiary of a fully healthy roster, or maybe his role kind of slots into the right spot offensively in this time? Just what have you seen, I guess, offensively from him when you guys are fully healthy?
Well, Jax gave me a stat, which I didn't even know. I don't know where. Did you give him this stat? I guess he's one of the league leaders in block shots on the perimeter. Something like that. I think he's one of the more underrated two-way players in the league. For us, I think it's really allowed him to showcase, how versatile he can be as a defender. He guards 1 through 5 for us. He guards at the top of the zone for us. He's able to do all the switching, that we do with certain lineups. And then sometimes because he's so effective defensively, you forget that this guy was, a big-time scorer early on in his career. I mean, the fact that he's put up 15,000 points, that's not nothing, And, I think he's also a guy that, fits it in the way that we play. It's a fine line because he can also get lost a little bit, but I think he's more of just kind of a play off of others and play off of the flow of the game. You don't want him to go too many possessions where he's not able to be aggressive, but he's a great player when he can play off of other things that are happening and he can just finish some plays rather than create, and that's what happened tonight.